Hello and welcome back to the Stationary Dev. Today we have a notebook slash paper review. Just something kind of interesting to go over. I will be inking up some pens here shortly, so there will be some more pen reviews coming up. But I figured I'd go over these. These are Paperblanks notebooks, and they're pretty widely available. You can usually find them in local bookshops and that sort of thing. You can also, I'm sure, find them online. And one of the things that usually probably first drives people to be interested in them is their beautiful format. So they're hardback. Usually, let me bring you down just a little bit. They're usually hardback books, and they usually have some sort of artwork on them. They're usually the designs are usually inspired by something. They have, beautiful makeup, different closing mechanisms. They usually kind of have this like rubberized feeling cardboard outer. But they come in different formats. Some of them have, like this one has, decorated edges to the thing. Like I said, different kind of closing mechanisms. So I think that's what kind of draws people to them. It's what kind of drew me to them, is because they're beautiful notebooks. But something that we want to know is, are they any good for writing in, specifically writing with fountain pens? Because that's what I enjoy writing with. That's what a lot of you probably enjoy writing with, is fountain pens. And so can I use my fountain pens on these notebooks? So we'll take a look at them. I got these all at a local discount bookshop, brand new. These, depending on the size, ran anywhere, I think, from about $7 to about $12. And your prices will probably vary depending on where you get them, whether it be online or a local bookshop or, something like that. So your prices vary, styles vary widely. But let's take a look at them. So I got three different notebooks, two different sizes. So both of these are A5 size, and then this one, I don't know what this one is. Maybe A6? I don't know. Maybe A6. But this one's smaller format. These two are A5, and you have different sizes. So you can see that this one has more pages than this one. And they also have different closing mechanisms. So both of these two close with a magnetic flap here. So this is magnetic there to keep it kind of closed, which I think is an elegant closing mechanism, a little bit more elegant than something like a band or something like that, rubber band or something that you see. These are all inspired by, or the artwork on these is all inspired by literary or music manuscripts. So you have a couple here. This one is music, obviously. This is the Erlkönig manuscript by Schubert. And it tells you a little bit. It's really cool. That's an actual manuscript of the piece of music. On the back, or on the little flap there, it has his signature, Franz Schubert. And then on the back and the inside, it tells you a little bit about the artwork, about the cover. So it tells you who Franz Schubert is. It tells you about the Erlkönig and the stuff like that. What's on the top or printed. Let's see. Usually it'll say like this is a manuscript or whatever, and it'll tell you like where it's at, if it's in a museum or something. But yeah, pretty cool. On the back it has Franz Schubert and his when he lived, and the piece of work again. You can see it's kind of embossed. I just like these because, they would look good on a shelf, whether you have it stored, up and down like that, or flat, they're going to look good on your shelf, on your bookcase, or whatever you're going to store them in later. So that's this one. These two are both literary works. So the first one is George Orwell. You can see his signature there, and if you and you can see this is his actual manuscript. You can see all his scratchings out and corrections and all that stuff, which I think is really just fascinating. And this is 1984, his sort of dystopian future prediction for the future kind of thing there. There you go. Your little, if you want to pause that and read all of that about him. Interesting about these books, so they are designed in Canada, but they're actually made in China. So I'm assuming the paper and everything is made in China, but the actual books are designed in Canada. So there's that one, George Orwell, 1984. You can see that again at the back, and this is a very similar styling to the Schubert one. And then finally, this one is a little bit different format. It's thicker. It's a little bit more book-like. It has a different closing mechanism, which is this magnetic, magnets again, but magnetic like latch. You can see there's a little magnet hidden down in there, and it latches on there. Once again, it's a little bit more classy than like a rubber band or something. But this one is Don Quixote. So you can see there, Dumas. Oh no, the Count of Monte Cristo. Sorry, I thought it was Don Quixote. I'm getting mixed up. But Count of Monte Cristo, Alexander Dumas, and no duh, there's the title there. But you can see his manuscript, his date of birth and death, and then at the back, some more information there. Sorry, I just knocked the camera winding. But there you go. So, and on the back here, it shows the prison too. Count of Monte Cristo there. It'll tell you that the back has features the handwritten draft, and the back cover shows the illustration where the count was gelled. So, a couple other things. All of these books, interestingly enough, and there's the sort of Paperblanks logo, but all the books have a folder on the back. So if you want to store something in the back there, they all have that folder in there. At least all the ones that I do have, which is kind of nice. So anyway, let's take a look at the actual paper. We wasted enough time we can look at the styles all day. Now what I think these bigger ones have heavier paper than this little one. And it doesn't say that anywhere, but just going off of my feel and my experience, I think it's lighter paper in this one than it is in the two A5 ones. But we'll take a look at both just to see how things perform. So I kind of gave a little bit. I've written a couple things in the front of this one, but I've been testing sort of pens and inks in the back there. As you can see, just a little bit of a spoiler alert. Let me move my light up here so you can see a little bit better. But it does pretty good with the fountain pens that are on there so far. Pretty nice and even lines. Colors are pretty true. I don't know about shading or sheen. Really, let me see. Yeah, not really getting any shading or sheen. It's a little bit more toothier paper. You can probably see the watermarks. This is a watermarked paper. Let me see if I separate from the back, hold it up to the light, you can probably see the watermarks there. So it's kind of nice. It does have maybe a little bit of texture, but not a whole lot. And so far what we have, you can see on the back, nothing came through as far as bleeding. You might start to see a couple of spots of show through with that Bay State blue, and then up in the swatch for the Fuyu, was it Fuyu Shogun at the top? Yeah. The swatch up there, just a couple of dots of show through, but no bleed through, which is pretty impressive. But I'm going to put it through the test with a couple extra pens here. So this one's a medium diplomat nib with some diamine meadow. We'll see how that does. And then this is a pretty wet pen as well. It's my Pilot Vanishing Point. And this has Leonardo Black. So once again, not much shading, even with the Diamine Meadow and the medium nib, which usually gets a good amount of shading. But all the lines are pretty clean. You can probably see there, lines are clean. And let's check the back side. Yeah. So no show through even with those two wetter nibs. Even with the medium nib. So really good. I have no problem. Like I said, I've written a little bit on it. I've written on the front and back of the pages and had no real problem with it so far. So that's good. So that's the smaller format book, which I think has lighter paper in terms of paper weight to the A5. So let's take a look at the A5s. This one I think has a couple extra pins on it as well. Yeah, so there you go. I put it through the ringer with my gusher of a Lamy 2000. Everything there so far. Once again, the lines are clean. I'm just taking a look a little bit closer right now. Maybe a little bit fuzzy with a little bit of the Waterman Carré in there, but that's a wet combo, pen and ink combo there. And once again, flip it over to the back. And pretty much the same, maybe a little bit better. You can see just the only thing kind of similar to the other one, you can start to see some show through with the Bay State Blue and the Fuyusyogen, but really, nothing, like I'd have no reservations. Now this paper is, let me hold it up just to make sure. Yeah, it is still watermarked, but like I said, I think it's thicker paper, so it's kind of harder to see the watermark bit of it, and it feels maybe a little bit smoother. I'm not sure, but here we'll add on 2 more lines here just to test it a little bit further. This is the Pilot VP Leonardo Black. They do lay flat pretty nice, at least for the most part, so I don't think you'll have too much problems fighting the actual notebook to write when you get toward the middle. And this is Diplomat, Arrow, Diamine, Meadow. And not trying to be fancy or anything there, just trying to get some ink on the paper so we can see what it does. But there you go. Once again, lines are pretty clean. Even with that medium nib. I don't know why there's a little bit of fuzziness with that Fuyusyogen, but it might just be because it's a little bit of a thinner ink. But like I said, shading is probably the downside of this paper. You don't get a lot of shading. You don't get very much sheen at all. So shading and sheen is down, but the color representations I think are pretty spot on. I think the lines are clean, and let's see for show through. Ooh, interesting. So once again, nothing bleeding through, but you are starting to get some show through with that medium nib with the Diplomat, interestingly enough, which it didn't do on the smaller, thinner paper. So kind of interesting, but still, that wouldn't deter me from writing on both sides of this notebook. But there you go. That's kind of what I've experienced. This one, I'm almost 100,000% certain that it has the same paper as the other A5 book. It's just a blank book. It's not lined or grid or anything. But yeah, just something interesting. I think it works well with fountain pens. Now, if you're using like triple broad, Pelicans, it'll probably bleed through this as well as most other regular, papers that aren't specifically designed to handle that. But for my uses and my purposes, these are 3 beautiful, functional, different, and interesting books that they're hardcover, they're well bound, they come with bookmarks, they'll look good on the shelf, they're long lasting. So they're gonna look good when you fill them up and you put them on a shelf or a bookshelf or put them on your desk or whatever. They look good. So, and I think the prices that I bought these for, $7 to $12, is super reasonable, especially for I'm pretty sure these two were the same price, and this one has probably a third more paper, if not like twice as much paper than the other one. But yeah. Anyway, I recommend them. You're like I said, your mileage may vary. Maybe their paper. What am I trying to say? Their paper might vary from batch to batch. So maybe you have one of these that's horrible for fountain pens. I have maybe just lucked out and got 3 that are good for fountain pens, or mostly good for fountain pens. So your mileage may vary, but that's sort of my experience with the Paperblanks. I can recommend them for most fountain pen users, and I think they're a great notebook to use. There's something different. They have that watermark, slightly textured paper. You're not going to see the beautiful shading properties of your inks. That's the downside. But other than that, if you're not looking for your shading bit, I recommend them. They're great. They're something different. They're legacy kind of things that will last a long time and look great. So that's my review. Let me know in the comments if you use Paperblanks and maybe your experiences with them. If you enjoyed them, if they worked for you, if they didn't work for you, if you've used a different format than these. They have a lot of different formats, like I said, a lot of different styles. And also, if you haven't already, please make sure or consider liking and subscribing. It's free, it's easy, it's quick, it helps out the channel, helps you to get more fountain pen content in your feed. And yeah, I think that wraps up the Paperblanks. Look at these Paperblanks things. Leave a comment if you have any questions for me or anything that I might be able to answer regarding these or anything else. And until next time, I'll catch you guys later.